everyone. Hope you're doing well today. We're live from space.
This lesson is going to be out of this world, friends.
Riley was a debater throughout her collegiate career, so she's here to teach you how to argue.
This is my favorite lesson, you guys. You were in for it. All right. So what we're going to be talking about today is the structure of argumentation called claim, warrant, impact. Sorry, friends. There we go. Okay, claim, warrant, impact. Get that out of there. There are three parts to a good argument in general, and this is similar to what you perhaps read, I believe, in chapter 13 when it talks about the Toulmin model. This is a modification of the Toulmin model. It's an easier way to operationalize the Toulmin model, I guess, in everyday life. So the language is a little bit similar, so you might be able to draw some parallels there. But in general, a good argument follows three parts. It starts with a claim. This is kind of like a topic sentence. It's like how we ask you in your outlines to start with a claim that supports the central idea for each of your body points instead of just like a keyword or something like that. So the claim is the main point of the argument. It's what you're trying to prove. It's basically a sentence that just tells us exactly where you're going with that argument. So your whole speech does rest on a claim. Your central idea itself is a claim, and your whole speech follows that. But more of what we're looking at in this idea, or with these ideas, are the claims that support your central idea. So that would be like your body paragraphs or your body points. Next, it's followed by a warrant, and a warrant is the logical justification for the claim. It's the information or evidence that is used to bolster the argument. In a lot of cases, this looks like data or statistics or quotations, but it can also just look like logic. It's just basically the reasoning that you have to substantiate the claim that you make. And then we follow that by what I think is probably the most important part of making a strong argument, which is the impact. I mean, you need the first two. You need to have a claim and a warrant. Otherwise, the impact doesn't work. But the impact is really what drives the argument home. So the impact is the reason the argument should matter to the audience and how the argument proves the claim to be true. I'm going to show you an example of this in just a second, but in general, it's like the link that tells us why that information is important and why that information that you presented as a warrant shows us that the claim is itself true. So for example, if you were arguing, let's say your whole speech rests on the idea that the United States should not increase the federal minimum wage. One claim that you have in support of that central idea would be that raising the minimum wage could hurt small businesses. So that's the claim that you're making. For a warrant, I just found some information. According to a study published by the University of Washington in 2018, a higher minimum wage had a negative impact on small businesses. They had to fire workers and or increase the price of goods or services in order to compensate for the wage increase. So that piece of information is the warrant. It shows us that that claim is not just a claim, that there is evidence to back up that claim. But then we take it a step further with an impact. So the impact is that a high minimum wage ultimately harms the workers and by extension the economy, because many people could lose their jobs, which is worse than having a low-paying job, and thus would not have disposable income. Additionally, prices going up also means people will have less disposable income, and less spending in general hurts economic growth as a whole. So the connection we're making with the impact is that we go back to the idea of the claim, that this is why raising the minimum wage could hurt small businesses. It's like the why behind the argument. So we see that not only is it proven to be true with the warrant, but the impact shows us that this actually is happening, and it connects that warrant back to that claim. I have another piece of claim, warrant, impact in context here, because most of the time when we see arguments, they are not going to be laid out like this, right? Most of the time when you give or see an argument, they're going to be in context. So this example shows us how that works. It says, though it is common practice, the amount of homework given to elementary school students each night is too high. You'll notice that's the claim. we're making a claim here that the amount of homework, oh, my face just disappeared, that the amount of homework given to elementary schoolers is too high. When we say it is actually unhealthy to ask elementary school students to do large amounts of homework. Excess homework prevents children from getting a healthy amount of sleep, according to Dr. Craig Canapari, director of the Yale Pediatric Sleep Center. That's the warrant, that section that says excess homework. That shows us that it's not just us who think that there's an actual, doctor who comes from a prestigious institution telling us that that is the case. And then we end with an impact. Thus, lowering the amount of homework young students are given could positively influence their health. That connects us back to the claim that too much homework is bad, but lessening the homework is good. It's the why behind that argument. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about refutation, because it's one thing to have a strong argument in and of itself, but what makes a strong argument even stronger is your ability to then respond to an opposing argument. And handle that opposing argument by saying, yeah, you know what? Some people might think this, however, this is the case. And it shows us that not only have you given thought to the other side, but that your side is still stronger because you're able to handle those arguments. So there are essentially 3 ways to respond to an argument. And this should come to no surprise to you that they are to respond to the claim, the warrant, or the impact. You can attack one or all 3, but as long as you're attacking at least one of them, you're able to refute someone else's argument. So, for example, if we go back to that argument that we created earlier about minimum wage jobs in the United States, you can see that you could attack the entire claim. If you want to make a complete counter argument that raising the minimum wage could actually help small businesses, then you go after the claim and you say the claim is not substantiated. If you want to say that, maybe that could be the case, however, that warrant is false, maybe you have contradicting evidence or evidence that shows that it's not quite as bad or something like that, then you can attack the warrant and say, that evidence just doesn't hold up to this other piece of evidence that I have for you. And then finally, the impact. You can also attack the impact and you can say, it might be true that raising the minimum wage could hurt small businesses in terms of like the warrant that we've provided, but you could go after the impact and say, but that really it's not as like harmful in the greater scheme of things, and you explain why. Or you might say that the connection that the speaker or author of the argument has drawn between the claim and the warrant isn't logically consistent, or just kind of going down that path of attacking how that person or how the author of the original argument drew meaning from that argument. So again, you can do you can use multiple strategies. You can use just one of them. There are lots of different ways to attack the argument. So I think that is what I've got for you in terms of claim warrant impact.
Be mindful of this lecture as well, because you might just have an assignment on it this week. That's due.
It's a good tip.
So, if you have questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out. But big thank you to Riley, because she's the debater extraordinaire.
Oh, stop sharing. That's what I wanted. All right. Bye, friends.
Goodbye, we're aliens.